Hi, everybody!
Since many of us can't travel at the moment, maybe you can travel vicariously through this video. These are experiences I filmed back in 2010 when I went on a 2-month backpack trip around Europe. I began my trip in London. I had some friends and family to visit there, and I just wanted to see the city. The last time I'd been was when I was 3 years old, and I wanted to go back and experience it as an adult. We also have family in Cambridge, and that was one of the places that I went to briefly. Shortly after that, we returned to London, and then it was off to Amsterdam. We toured around Amsterdam for a couple of days, and then we were off to Paris. And this was a beautiful city. There were a lot of amazing people that we ran into there. I was fortunate that I spoke French. It seems that you get a little bit more respect from the local people there if you know how to speak their language. We even happened upon a pride parade, which was quite neat, and this was before I came out, so I'm glad I have these pictures. From France, we toured along the coast of Spain to Bilbao and spent a few days soaking up the sun there and getting a little bit burnt. And then we went off to Madrid. Unfortunately, while we were in Madrid, I had my debit and credit card stolen when we were taking the train. From Madrid, we went on to Seville. Then we ended up in Malaga. Following that, we found ourselves in Barcelona, and this was one of the most incredible experiences of my life because while we were there, the World Cup was going on, and we got to witness the final game in the World Cup where Spain won, and we're standing there in Barcelona surrounded by crowds of people, and everyone just went wild. Barcelona is also just a very beautiful city, and I wanted to take some time and explore it as much as I could. We got to see some of the typical tourist sites, but I also managed to get a bike and ride along into some places where there weren't too many people, and had some really fun experiences along the way. Following Barcelona, we went to Nice, where we had an amazing hostel experience and fantastic food and wine. From there, we went on to Rome and toured around all of the ruins there and spent many days wandering around. There's no shortage of things to see in Rome. The one downside to our stay was the hostel. We stayed at the Peter Pan hostel. It was just a little dirty and there were a lot of flies. Fortunately, I didn't sleep very much because that night I decided to do the Spanish Steps pub crawl with a few people that I'd met on the trip. I was traveling with my friend Ashley, but we did manage to meet a lot of people along the way. We met someone in Rome that we just really got along with, so we decided to take him to Pompeii with us. and stay in a bed and breakfast together. We hiked up Mount Vesuvius and the views were incredible. We toured around the ruins of the city. After Pompeii, we made a brief stop in Bari, which is where we caught the ferry over to Greece. On the ferry ride from Italy to Greece, we had an awful experience where the pool flooded the deck and all of our things were soaked. When you're going on the ferry, the cheap seats are deck chairs, so we ended up having a bit of a miserable night. That ferry took us over to Patras, and from there we went off to Athens. Unfortunately, the first night we had some gyros, and I ended up getting food poisoning from them and had to spend a fair amount of time holed up in our hostel. Fortunately, there was an upside because I was able to pick up my new credit card and finally be able to make purchases without needing people to wire transfer me money. The structures in Athens were, as you can imagine, incredible, and the people there were amazing as well. When we took our ferry ride back, we met some local people from Greece who brought us homemade ouzo and olives. The ouzo was disgusting, but we really appreciated the thought. When we got back from Greece, we went to Venice, and the canals in Venice are just as you would expect from all of the movies that you've probably seen, but they're just so much more incredible when you get to see them in person. This is when Ashley and I split up and went different directions. Ashley went off to Austria, and I went off to Switzerland, and I'm so glad that I did. Switzerland is one of my favorite places in the world. Rick Steves suggested going to Gimmelwald. I think his exact quote was, "If heaven's not all it's cracked up to be, send me back to Gimmelwald." And I completely understand why. You're surrounded by beautiful mountains. There's so many hikes to do. We had some incredible experiences with the people that were at the mountain hostel. And we also went up to Mürren, which is a local town nearby, where we had a hoedown, which is essentially a Swiss interpretation of what American culture is like. I ended up having one day where I summited 3 peaks in one day, and it was a 16-hour hike, and it was exhausting, but fortunately when I came back to the hostel, they had the most delicious pizza I've ever had, and some amazing new friends to hang out with, so it was so worth it. It was one of the best days ever. I don't have enough words to describe how amazing that stay was. It was so amazing, in fact, that I told Ashley after we did the rest of our trip, I wanted to come back and stay a few days there again. Following my stay in Switzerland, I met back up with Ashley in Berlin, and we spent some time with Ashley's family there and toured around your typical sites. From Berlin, we went off to Frankfurt, where we met up with someone that we knew from Canada who'd moved back to Germany. So this is an old friend that we were able to get back in touch with. Then it was time to bring Ashley back to Switzerland again. We went back to Gimmelwald, back to the mountain hostel, and had a wonderful stay there. And then we wanted to try something a little bit different. So we went down to Iseltwald, which is a little town just outside of Interlaken. And it's on a lake, a beautiful sort of bluish green colored lake with some amazing mountains, amazing buildings all around. And it was just sort of a serene, idyllic place.
Ashley, tell us what trail we're on.
The naughty trail.
We're on the naughty trail.
The trip came to an end all too soon, and while we were tired and ready to head home, it was definitely an incredible experience and one that we were sad to leave behind us.
If I were a woman, this is gonna go somewhere interesting.
Okay, that's good
No?
enough. I'll end it here.
You're gonna end it here?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Nick and Ashley, over and out.
Yeah.